What's up everybody and welcome back. For anybody new here, we have to go over a few things before I get this video started. Number one is we're looking for humanized cheats. Some of these clips might not seem blatant to you, but understand these cheats are designed to look as human as possible. It can cost thousands of dollars to get a good cheat developer. So if you think that cheating has to be blatant like you see right here with the spin botting on the screen, then you might want to watch a few more videos before you watch this one, because this video might not make a lot of sense. Number two, I am not a cheat developer. In these demo reviews, I'm going to be going over sketchy crosshair movements and certain patterns that stand out during the aiming process. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, I have multiple videos on this topic, and I highly recommend you click this playlist that just appeared on the screen up here before you watch this video just to better understand what's going on. Two of the videos right here go over the anomalies that I found, and one video explains how the compression of the view angles have been updated so we don't get those weird right angle demo bugs anymore in the crosshair movements. Number three is I also turn off the interpolation for these demos. This is also something that Valve does for their Overwatch cases. There are other commands that I also enter in which are referenced in those videos that I talked about before, and if you're interested in downloading my demo config, it's down in the description below. Alright, with this first clip right here, we're going to see an afterlock after the first shot, and then some micro adjustments to the outside of the target and back to the target before his second shot. And then the next part of this clip, you're going to see his crosshair pause on the target just for a brief second. And this is at 10% game speed. It's even kind of hard to see then, so I'm going to slow it down tick by tick. And you'll see that his crosshair pauses on the target just for a second. Okay, in this next clip, you're going to see the same thing that happened in the last clip. You're going to see his crosshair pause on the target just for a split second. And here's another example of him flicking past the target, but as he's flicking past, his crosshair's pausing on the target just for a split second. Okay, we have one last example of him pausing on the target as he's trying to flick past the target and then ends up killing the guy behind the smoke. Here's an example of him hitting his aim key for information, and again, this is what I call an infolock. Alright, here's another aim lock, except this one's happening as he's switching his weapons. And if I turn interpolation on, you'll notice that the lock seems to happen as he's chambering the weapon, which seems to be a common thread with these aim locks during weapon switches. And here's a side-by-side view of interpolation off on the left side and interpolation on the right side. And you'll see as he's chambering his weapon is when he's locking onto that target. Here I want to point out something I call bullet manipulation. And this should be a huge red flag for everybody who understands how hard it is to actually control your recoil of the weapon while tracking targets, but we have such a bad cheating problem that everybody thinks this is normal. Learning the crosshair pattern of every gun, being able to execute that pattern to a degree so you can keep that tight spray, and if you mess it up at all during the pattern, it's not going to keep that tight spray, and track moving targets while executing the spray pattern without having something visual like your crosshair to know where to shoot at, because your crosshair is going to be down towards their feet because you're controlling the spray pattern of the gun. It's extremely hard to practice this. It's extremely hard to do this in game. Why even do this? It's impractical when you have another way of shooting, which is bursting, where you have something visual that you can aim with and you don't have to worry about memorizing any sort of spray pattern. I mean, it used to be called spray and pray for a reason, right? And I'm not trying to say that this stuff is impossible to do. I'm trying to say that it's highly impractical when you have another better way of shooting, which is bursting. Why even practice doing any of this when it's hard as fuck to do? If you mess up the spray pattern at all, the whole thing's fucked. And you have to stay in one spot too, you have to stay still. Whereas bursting, you can move around the map, do like a 2 or 3 shot burst, strafe back and forth. And yet you see people with these godlike sprays and spray transfers all the time, and it doesn't throw up any red flags. And anybody who does say something is just dismissed as not being good enough. I don't think these people understand how difficult these things are that they claim that they're doing. They're just holding down a button and letting the aimbot do the work for them and then saying that you're bad if you can't do it. When again, there's a way more efficient way that you can shoot at people. It's way more practical because you don't have to stand still. You can move around the map. You don't have to worry about controlling any sort of recoil pattern. And you have something visual that represents where you're aiming at. But as you can see in these clips right here, this is not the preferred method of shooting in Counter-Strike. You'll have everybody you come in contact with tell you that you need to memorize all of these spray patterns and be able to execute them perfectly almost, and then track targets at the same time. And he's able to do this so good, supposedly, that 11 shots into his spray right here, he's able to adjust his spray above the box in front of him so that he could shoot a second target in the head and immediately transfer to his third target. And you'll notice that before the transfer to the third target, he actually adjusts to shoot his second target's gun and then immediately transfers to the third target. Okay, here I just want to point out some more bullet manipulation, the fact that he's adjusting to a jumping target mid-spray, and as soon as his target dies, he adjusts to his target's weapon and then adjusts to the second target. And I'm not exactly sure why they lock onto the weapons afterwards. I've been told that the weapons spawn as entities on the map once they're dropped, so I'm not sure why it keeps happening. All I know is that it keeps happening, so I'm going to keep pointing it out. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like button or the dislike button and leave a comment down below. Big shout out to all my Patreon supporters for doing their thing and making all this possible. And if you want to have your say in the next players to be reviewed, or if you're interested in early access to the videos I put out, make sure you check out my Patreon page for available options.